It's because you're a chosen one.
All right, chosen one, you got a calling.
If you have been chosen, one, obviously you should be a follower and believer of Jesus Christ.
If you're seeing this message, it's because most likely you're a chosen one.
When you are chosen by God, you don't really get a say.
Many are called, few are chosen.
Chosen ones can feel energy right away.
Chosen ones aren't just protected, they're spiritually untouchable.
Chosen ones are usually rejected from a very young age.
Hey kitty cats, welcome to or back to the channel. My name is Brittany if you are new here, and today we are diving into an interesting topic. I came across so many of these videos of people claiming to be the chosen ones, and this is something that I want to dissect. I want to talk about what I think is actually going on here. I also want to speak to the ego that I see present here, and this is not to shame anyone with this perspective. I'm simply wanting to bring awareness to this because I do think that this is damaging. With that, I do understand why some people think they are chosen. I do understand that, and I'm going to get into that later in the video. But let me be clear. I believe that we are all chosen. We are all chosen by God. We are all brothers and sisters. We are all children of God, and we are all here for different reasons, and we are all unique, and we go through our own unique experiences. One path is not better than the other. Nothing is ever black and white, and in my opinion, to claim to be chosen implies that you are special and better than. And the truth is we are all special. We are all unique and special, and we all offer something different, and we all bring something different to the table, regardless of what that may be. So we're going to dive into that. We're also going to dive into the Bible verse. We're also going to dive into the Bible verse. Many are called, few are chosen. I have my opinion on that and what I actually think that means. I feel a lot of people take that line so literally. A lot of people read the Bible in a very literal way, and personally, I don't resonate with the Bible in a literal way. I believe the Bible is full of many beautiful metaphors and analogies, and anyways, that's a whole other topic of conversation, but there is a Bible verse, many are called, few are chosen, that I'm going to be speaking to as well. Without further ado, get cozy, get comfy, grab your coffee, grab your tea. If you're coming across this video and you feel as though you are chosen, I want to say, this video is not me bashing, people who think they're chosen or anything like that. Essentially, I believe the ego is at play here, which I think is important to bring awareness to and dissect, but I'm not about to bash these people or anything like that. So I invite you to listen with an open heart as we dive in to all of this. So with that, I'm going to start by showing a few clips, and I'm going to be reacting to a few of these clips. We'll go from there. If I'm looking down, it's because my laptop is in front of me, and this is where I will be watching the videos.
Chosen ones aren't just protected, they're spiritually untouchable. You can't break what was born in divine fire. You can't curse what was blessed in divine silence.
So to say chosen ones are spiritually untouchable, to me, makes no sense. Like, we are all spirit. We are all spirit first having a human experience, period. So what do you even mean by spiritually untouchable? Like, as humans, we have free will and actions have consequences. So to say you're spiritually untouchable just doesn't make sense, because that implies that you can be the worst person in the world and there's no consequences for that. What I do want to say to that, though, some of you might say, like, well, Brittany, why are some people so protected in comparison to other people? Like, I've heard stories where people pass away so young, where other people, they live till they're so old, or other people naturally have such an easier life. How do you explain that? And trust your intuition always. I'll always say this is my opinion and what I've learned through mushroom medicine. And this is something that deeply resonates with me. If it doesn't resonate with you, that's okay. But my belief is, as a soul, we incarnate to learn and to experience. And it is impossible to learn all of our lessons and experience everything we're meant to experience here in one lifetime. Period. What I've learned on my path is that as a soul, we come down here many times in different bodies, in different areas of the world, born into different cultures, etc., etc. And the reason is to give us that different perspective, or the reason is to give us those different experiences so that we have the opportunity to learn everything we're meant to learn. One lifetime, you might be born into poverty, and then in another lifetime, you might be born into an extremely wealthy family. One lifetime, you might be born into a family where there's a lot of trauma in the home. And then in another lifetime, you might be born into a very safe family with a lot of love. And that can be hard when you're here on earth, right? And you're living your life and you're seeing how other people have it a lot easier than you, or you're seeing how a lot of people have it a lot harder than you. It can be confusing. And I get that. And what I've learned is that, not that, again, you shouldn't help people. Like, I believe if you're more fortunate than somebody else, like, it's important to help and to be compassionate and, all of these things. Also, it's understanding that we all have X amount of things to learn and X amount of things to experience. And in order to do that, we need different experiences in this life. Therefore, we come down here many times to have those various experiences to learn what we need to learn. So that's why, some people might have it super easy in one lifetime. Maybe the lifetime before they had a really, really hard life, and this lifetime is giving them a bit of a break, a little bit of ease. I could go on and on and on about this, you guys. I could go on and on and on about this. So yeah, that would be my answer to, well, why do some people have such an easy life versus other people? Some people definitely do feel more spiritually protected than others. It's not that some people are more spiritually protected than others. It's simply that we're here to live out our different lessons and experiences. Therefore, that's going to look different for everybody, period. So to say, oh, you're a chosen one and you're spiritually untouchable, just feels weird in my system. It really does not resonate. Let's continue with this.
Definitely can't touch what walks with unseen angels. Chosen ones aren't just protected, they're sealed by divine energy, untouchable by low frequency. No matter what's thrown at them, betrayal, envy, spiritual attacks, they still rise, still glow, still walk with inner calm. That's not luck, that's alignment.
He even said that's alignment. That's a choice that you make. That's a choice that you make. Here on earth, we have free will, right? We have free will here. We can choose to walk in alignment or we can choose to walk out of alignment, and not that it matters either way, right? Because if you're quote unquote out of alignment, maybe that was necessary for you to learn something, So is there even such a thing as being out of alignment? You can argue that there isn't, right? Anyways, to say, they walk with unseen angels, we all walk with unseen angels. Every single one of us has a spirit team that's with us, that's guiding us, that's supporting us. You're not going to be sent down here without a team, without others on the other side guiding you, protecting you, supporting you, being with you. And those who glow and still walk with inner calm, that's again because they've cultivated that from within themselves. That's not something that was just given to them. If you choose to rise again, that's free will coming into play. As humans, actions have consequences. If you choose to get up every time you're knocked down, that's action, right? Choosing to stand up every time you're knocked down. Therefore, that action will have a consequence. It'll have a positive consequence. Does that make sense? This is not something that you're just born with or given. We have free will here on earth. And to cultivate inner calm and that inner glow, that's up to you.
They're connected to Source. Source, they believe in God. They resonate with Him. Their vibration doesn't allow spiritual parasites to attach. Their soul remembers what others.
There's just there's so much here that I want to say. Their vibration doesn't allow spiritual parasites to attach. Again, we are human here. And as humans, we all have the shadow. We all have the ego. We all have the soul, right? It's all parts of us that make us whole and complete. And to say, spiritual ones don't have parasites that ever attach onto them is just silly. Again, actions have consequences. And as humans, we have the ego. So if you're unaware of those wounded parts within you, you can be then open to, let's say, negative energy, for lack of a better word, if you want to call it parasites or whatever it may be. Okay, again, whatever language you want to use. But no one is chosen over anybody else. It's a choice that's made within. And the more you're able to look within and love yourself within, the less prone you will be to, let's say, negative energy, because you are aware of those parts within you that need love. Therefore, you won't be a match to those negative energies, right? But again, that's you and the work that you're choosing to do.
Forgotten. Their spiritual untouchability is real in a world that rewards illusions. They feel darkness, but they don't absorb it.
They feel darkness, but they don't absorb it. That's something that you need to learn. You need to learn how to not absorb dark energy. We are all humans. We are all energetic beings. I know for me personally, very, very empathetic, very sensitive ever since I was young. And I would take on negative energy, just somebody being in a bad mood. I would take it on because I was sensitive and I needed to learn how to have those energetic boundaries for myself. Learning how to protect your energy, not take on negative energies energies. It's not something that's simply gifted to you.
They sense energy shifts but step away before the storm hits. Why isn't the chosen one shaken? It's because they were built through storms, born by this, and that's why they're untouchable.
There's a lot off with this video here. Okay, so let's just watch another one here.
When you're chosen by God, you have this, what I like to call this distinction over your life. It is this rare distinction that not very many people have. And here's just a couple of signs to know, like,
And what I want to point out here, this rare distinction that not many people have. It's bringing this energy of exclusivity, exclusivity, is that the word? It's bringing this energy of exclusivity, right? Which makes you feel special, rare, unique, right? When in reality, we are all unique. We are all special. We are all rare. Just the language that he's using, it's giving, again, exclusivity. Only the exclusive people are allowed here. This is exclusive. This is rare. And it makes you feel special, right? Like when you're chosen for something that not a lot of people are chosen for, regardless of what it may be. Like the Olympics are coming to mind, right? Like if you're an Olympic athlete, that's quite rare, right? You're going to feel special and there's nothing wrong with that. But it's that same sort of energy that he's using here when it comes to being chosen from God. And to me, that just feels really off because again, we are all God's children. We are all brothers and sisters. We are all equal in God's eyes. God is not going to choose favorites. God does not choose favorites. To say that, I feel like if Jesus were here, he would be flipping tables at that. He would be like, what do you mean? Anyways.
if you have been chosen, one, obviously you should be a follower and believer of Jesus Christ.
So, sorry. Even the way he said that, and he has this like, I don't know what the word is for that.
One, obviously you should be a follower and believer of Jesus Christ.
But kind of like coughing, like, duh, you're a believer and follower of Jesus Christ. Again, to me personally, like, it makes me just want to roll my eyes. Like, what do you mean if you're chosen, you have to be a follower of Jesus Christ? He wanted you to follow in his footsteps, right? But Jesus is not going to be like, yes, follow me. And only those who follow me are the ones that are welcome in my exclusive club. Come, only special, rare ones. No.
2, everywhere you go, people are always staring. It doesn't matter who you're with. It doesn't matter where you're at. Every time you walk into a room, people are always looking at you. And it doesn't even have to necessarily be that you're like the most beautiful person in the world.
Okay, so this idea of like people staring at you, because I've heard this with other things as well, not just about being chosen, like people stare at you everywhere. So if people look at you, if you notice a lot of people are looking at you, that could be for a few reasons. Maybe you have a booger hanging out your nose, you know what I mean? Or maybe you do have this glow about you, this energy about you, this energy that radiates, that draws people in. That's definitely a thing. But that happens because you have found this inner light from within yourself. You're glowing from within yourself. This doesn't happen because you're chosen, right? You're the chosen one and it's some outside thing that like points its finger and like picks you. This is something that happens from within. It's like you've cultivated this beautiful self-loving energy from within yourself. You've done work within yourself. You've healed within yourself, and healing's a forever journey, right? But it's this energy of vibrating, I'm going to use quotes, at a higher frequency. Again, I'm using quotes, right? Because I do believe in energies and frequencies, and we could vibrate at higher energies, lower energies, not that higher means better. I want to make that very clear, right? But the more work that you do on yourself, the more you learn how to love yourself, right? Which takes time. This is not something that happens overnight. And this is an ever-ending journey, okay? A forever journey. It's a part of the journey of life. But the more you're able to cultivate that from within yourself and maintain that, right? Because that's another thing. You might cultivate that and then life might happen and it might throw you off for a little bit and you need to recultivate that from within you. That's all a part of life. But when you have cultivated that energy from within yourself, oftentimes that does create this magnetism towards you. Therefore, that might cause people to look at you, sure, right? But at the end of the day, I feel like people with this mentality of, oh, people are looking at you, they're almost like looking for people that are looking at them. I don't know. It just feels weird to me. It feels weird to me. It feels off to me. Like you shouldn't even really be paying attention to other people when you're walking into a room. Not that you shouldn't be mindful of those around you, but it's like you're not focused on who's looking at me, who's noticed me walk in the room, who's noticed me. It's like, no, you go in there, there, you do your thing, you go to a coffee shop, you get your coffee, you leave. You're not going in there thinking about who's looking at me, who's noticed me. You know what I'm saying?
Number 3, people naturally are drawn to you, especially those who are hurting and need like a healing from you, because they just sense this warmness about you. They can sense your light. But everybody's naturally drawn to you. Wherever you go, people navigate towards you. People just want to be around your presence.
If people are naturally drawn to you, again, that could be for many reasons. It doesn't necessarily mean because you're chosen, right? People could be drawn to your energy because maybe you're very positive. Maybe you're very uplifting. Maybe you're a really good listener. Maybe you just have a really safe energy and people feel safe to open up to you. Those are all beautiful things. There's nothing wrong with that. But again, that does not necessarily mean that you are chosen. Again, with the language here, he's talking about these things that people will resonate with. Like I'm sure some people will resonate with, yeah, I do notice people kind of look at me when I walk into a room. Or, yeah, I do notice a lot of people want to be around me and my energy. So the language that he's using can resonate with people, but that doesn't mean, again, that you're a chosen one.
4, your face glows, like your body glows. And I don't mean just like your light or your energy. I mean like your face actually glows. I remember when I was in school.
Is my face glowing? Look at the sun on my face. I'm glowing. Am I a chosen one? Sorry, I'm being silly right now. No, and it's beautiful. If you have a glow about you, again, sometimes people do naturally have a glow about them, right? But it doesn't mean that they're a chosen one. Maybe it's because they've chose themselves. Again, they've cultivated that relationship from within themselves. Or maybe they just have really good skin. Maybe they just got back from vacation. Maybe they have a really good tan. And what I want to speak to with this too, it's like, what if a person struggles with, let's say, acne, or what if a person is struggling with some sort of health issue that causes breakouts or causes redness or causes imperfections, right? That's so unfair for those people, because what you're saying is, oh, to be chosen, your skin has to glow, you have to look a certain way. And I just don't resonate with that. I feel like, again, everything he's saying here is not proof to being chosen, because again, I don't believe that anyone is chosen above anybody else. We are all equal. We are all chosen, and we are all chosen for different reasons or different purposes. And I don't even think we're chosen for different reasons or purposes. I believe that we choose the role we play. I believe that before we come down here, we choose our own path. And I know that not everyone will necessarily agree with that, but I believe that we had a say along with God and our guides. We had a say in that, and we knew before coming down here. And of course, when we come down here, we forget, but we knew the trials and tribulations that we would need to move through.
I remember when I was in school, and it was the dead of winter. Now, all that makes people know in wintertime, we makes people be pasty white. So it was wintertime, and I was sitting in class, and my friend came up to me, and she was like, "Are you wearing bronzer?" And I was like, "What?" And she was like, "You wearing bronzer, aren't you? I'm telling everybody." And I was like, "No, like all I did, I washed my face." And at the time I had Proactive, so I put Proactive on my face, but that was it. She was like, "You're lying, you got bronzer on." But anyways, when you are a follower of Christ and like God has chosen you, your face will literally glow, and people can see this glow.
So again, people do talk about the Jesus glow, and what I think that is, I don't necessarily think it's because you are a follower of Jesus per se. I think it's because you've chosen yourself. You've cultivated that relationship within yourself. You've learned how to balance the energies from within yourself, create harmony from within yourself. And when you do, that does reflect outward often, right? Again, depending on whether or not you're dealing with health issues or whatever that may be. I do want to acknowledge that because that's very real for some people. Some people can feel like they have a true connection with God, right? And they do have a true connection with God, and maybe they're going through health issues. Just because they're going through health issues and they're tired and they have bags under their eyes or they're not glowing, it doesn't mean they're not chosen. That's just so dumb to say. It's an awful thing to say, because what if, let's say, people going through health issues, maybe that's what they chose for this lifetime for whatever reason, right? To learn whatever they were meant to learn in this lifetime, to experience whatever they were meant to experience. That could be harder lessons. Those can be harder things to have to move through. And then on top of it, to say, well, you just must not be chosen. You know what I mean? It just implies that. It's just And it could make those people feel like they're not doing enough, or they're doing something wrong, or you know what I mean? And it's just not good. It's not good. But yeah, people do talk about this Jesus glow. And what I believe that is personally, I do believe people can have a glow about them. I'm not saying that's not true. Do I think it's because they're chosen and it's because it's a Jesus glow? No. Maybe some of those people do have a relationship with Jesus, right? And that's beautiful. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. I myself have a relationship with Jesus. My first tattoo was actually this cross here. That was literally my first tattoo. Anyways, like, I myself have a relationship with Jesus, but that doesn't necessarily mean, that's why I glow at times in my life. And I believe that you don't need to have a relationship with Jesus to have a glow about you. I believe that glow comes from many different reasons, but a big one being because you found that balance, that harmony from within yourself. You've chosen yourself. You know how to love yourself. You have boundaries. You are becoming aware of the shadow within you. You get what I'm trying to say.
5, you don't really fit in with anybody. Like, people like to be around you, but it's almost like you have this barrier up that God puts up, I feel like, that makes you inaccessible, that only certain individuals can actually get close to you.
Maybe that's your own boundaries that you put up, because maybe naturally you don't feel safe to open up to just anyone. I would say that's healthy. You know what I'm saying? Like, to be mindful of who you open up to, not just to trust anybody with your energy. That's discernment. That's boundaries. You don't have to be chosen by God to implement that in your life.
The other ones who aren't what I would say like ungodly or whatever, there's like this barrier that they can't come near you. Like, they'll just stare, and they don't really even talk to you either. But those who do talk and like want to be around you, they can only come so close.
That just really bothers me. People, when they do talk and want to be around you, they could only come so close. It gives like, I am royalty and you peasants can't come too close to me because I am godly and God has chosen me. You peasants stay away. That's what I'm hearing. This to me, again, is ego at play here, wanting to feel superior, wanting to feel special, which we're going to dive more into that in a minute. And something that I want to add here, editing Brittany here, here she is making an appearance. She might make a few more appearances as the video continues. Anyways, we are human, having a human experience. That means we really are still susceptible to the world. And, he mentions, people that are quote unquote ungodly won't come near you. That's not necessarily true. You're a human, right? If you make decisions that are not in your best interest and that gets you in a situation that surrounds you with people that may not have the best intentions, that's on you. You're not above anybody, because what he's implying sounds like those who are chosen are protected and those who are ungodly and bad energy and evil energy you are immune from. As humans, we're not immune to anything. As I said before, I believe that we're all here for different experiences and different lessons and different reasons, which is why we need to come down many times to learn and experience everything we're meant to. So sometimes, maybe we are meant to be on this earth for a longer period of time. Therefore, life might go in a way that supports you getting to old age. You know what I mean? It doesn't mean you're necessarily more protected than somebody else. Maybe there's another lifetime that you come down and life was supposed to go a lot differently. Let's say you were meant to leave the earth at 5 years old. That doesn't mean that 5-year-old was any less protected. That was simply their path in that lifetime. Because what he's implying to me sounds like he's saying, the chosen ones don't have to worry about people who don't have good intentions. He calls them ungodly people, whatever label you want to put on it, right? He goes, chosen ones don't have to worry about that. Those people will just stare at you or whatever, but they won't actually come and speak to you, which implies that chosen ones are more protected than other ones. No, here on earth, you still need to use your discernment, period, because actions have consequences. So regardless of how protected you are, because we are all protected, we all have a spirit team, period, that will guide us and assist us with our lessons here on earth at this lifetime, this go around. Our spirit teams are always with us, guiding us, protecting us, regardless of what we chose to experience here. Just because someone might look like they've been through a lot of horror in life, it doesn't mean they're less protected than somebody else. Anyways, I'm going on and on and on, but I wanted to speak to that as well because it's simply not true. And then, as I said, actions have consequences. Free will comes into play too. You have free will. Spirit can't intervene all the time with everything. Otherwise, what would be the point of free will? there would be no point of free will.
6, when people do meet you, they say, there's something about you. There's just something about you. I can't put my finger on it. So many people have always told me that, and I'm like,
I love how through this too, he's adding in, oh, so many people have told me this, or, the story about how his friend at school told him about how he had a glow on his face. Now, I can laugh at that and then I could also hold compassion for that, and I could say, okay, what this to me he screams insecure. This is somebody extremely insecure that needs validation. It's sad at the end of the day, needing to feel superior, needing to feel chosen, needing that external validation, needing to create a video to talk about this, and to not forget to mention how he himself has experienced these things, aka he is a chosen one. He is special. He is superior. Again, that's ego at play. Why does that happen? I believe because there's a wounded part of him that needs his love and attention that he is unaware of. Therefore, he is seeking that love and attention and validation outside of him. And it comes across in this kind of a way. And if you have inner discernment, you can see right through this. To me, it's clear as day. This is giving insecure. This is giving somebody that needs validation. And that's sad. But if you don't have that inner discernment yet, which is okay for me personally, like it took me a long time to get here. There was an old version of me that might have listened to this and believed him. And I too would have thought I was a chosen one. Okay, so I want to make that very clear. There was a point in my journey where I hadn't cultivated this discernment yet from within myself, where I had a lot of work still to do. And hey, life is a journey. I know that there's still more discernment for me to cultivate and X, Y, and Z. However, just a few years ago, like I'm thinking like 2020, 2021, even 2022, I would have seen this video and I would have been like, oh my God, this is me. I'm a chosen one. And I probably would have believed that. Anyways.
So many people have always told me that, and I'm like, is that good or bad? And they're like, no, it's good. Like I don't know. There's something about you. Like, I really like you. You have like your energy is very different. I don't know. Like, it's just, I don't know. And lastly, this isn't like all that there is, but this is the last one I'm going to do. Number 7, you know deep down, and you've known since you've been younger, that there is just something great that you're going to do. Like I don't want to say great. You were called to a higher purpose, and you just feel like you're going to be used for something bigger than yourself.
So what I want to say to that, I believe that we all have a higher purpose that we're called to. We all have a higher purpose that we're called to, every single one of us. And when I say higher purpose, that doesn't necessarily mean better than somebody else, but I believe that we have free will here. And I believe that we choose, right, based on our day-to-day actions. And I do believe that there is a point in our life where we are called higher. We are called higher. And again, when I say higher, I don't mean higher than somebody else or better than somebody else, but just simply higher for yourself, meaning like you're being called higher in comparison to where you're at right now. Again, so when I say higher calling, I'm not saying higher calling than you. I have a higher calling than you, and I have a higher calling than you. God is going to use me for something bigger than me, something that he can't use you for. No, we all have a higher calling, and it is up to us to answer it. It's basically something calling at you, something that your soul is guiding you towards, or something potentially more for you, right? It's maybe a higher calling than where you're currently at. Then it becomes up to you to answer the call and to say yes to whatever that higher calling is. Editing Brittany here. So what I wanted to add surrounding the higher calling, I believe that our higher calling is the calling of the heart. And when we are here on earth, we're taught to think our way through life as opposed to feel our way through life. So often a lot of us are walking the path the mind has us on, right? We control our future, we plan our future, because it is not easy for us to surrender the ego and listen to the heart and follow the heart, because often the heart will take us down a path that is uncertain, where we don't necessarily know where it's taking us, right? The path of the heart is the path less traveled. It'll often tell you to do the thing that's not the most logical. And I feel personally that is the path of your higher calling, but you have to choose to walk that path. And every single one of us has the ability to be used for something bigger than us. All of us. God will use any of us for something bigger than us. So it's not that you're chosen above other people and only certain people are used for something bigger than them. No, we all have the potential to be used as something bigger than us. All of us. I mean, you can argue our existence, period, is bigger than us, right? Just by simply existing and being. So it's not that God only chooses some people to be used as something bigger than them. We all have the opportunity to be used as something bigger than us, but it is also our choice to answer that higher calling, to answer the call of our heart, to have the courage to follow that path, because that path requires you to surrender your ego, to surrender control, to be okay with uncertainty. And that's really hard to do. Especially in the world we live in, it's really hard to do because we're taught to control the path, right? You go to school, you go to high school. What are you going to do when you're older? Oh, if you don't set yourself up for your future now, you're going to fail. We're taught to control all aspects of our life because we're taught that we will be unsafe or we will fail if we don't control all of it. And the path of your heart will often require you to surrender that, to let go of that, to let go of the control, to be okay with things not going the way you thought they would, to surrender your ego, to walk the path less traveled, the path that's, in my opinion, very challenging to walk, but that is up to you. And again, that is where free will comes in. It's not just a given, right? It's not like, oh, you're chosen, therefore it's a given, you're going to follow your higher calling. It's not so simple, right? This is where free will comes in. You have to choose that path. You have to surrender your ego. You have to put your faith in God and your path ahead.
Now, he talks about God is going to use you for something bigger than you. I understand that feeling. I feel like a lot of you might understand that feeling. And I feel like here on earth, we all have the potential to tap into that, to do something that is bigger than you. Even like being a mom, for example, being a mom is an example of that higher calling. And you don't have to be a mom. I'm not saying that if you're not a mom, you're not on the path of your higher calling. I want to make that very clear. But this is just an example, like being a mom, that is God using you for something greater than you because you're bringing life into the world. It's not just about you. You're bringing life into the world. And these lives that you're bringing into the world will then have an impact on the world. Does that make sense? So it's like, what does higher calling even mean? Like to me, I like to say I do feel like I have a higher calling, but that's not me saying my calling is higher than yours or yours or yours or yours. It's simply my soul is guiding me to something more than where I'm at right now. And I don't necessarily know exactly what that looks like yet. And that's been my journey for the last few years. It's like I've been on this path where it's not planned. I'm surrendered to the flow, which is super uncomfortable at times. And things have changed and shifted on my path that I never would have thought, because where I once was at, okay, this is the example. I was once living with my ex. I thought we were going to get married. I was a teacher. I was at the time miserable. And anyways, I thought that was going to be my life. Then I got called higher, okay, quote unquote higher. And what I mean by higher is God or my soul was calling me to something less comfortable. They were calling me to step out of the box that I was in. What ended up happening? I answered the call. We ended up breaking up. I dropped out of being a teacher. I dropped out of the master's program for counseling that I was in. And I started pursuing this new path that I've been pursuing since 2022. And this new path is constantly shifting, changing, and evolving. I don't know what the next few months are going to look like for me. I'm really at a place where I'm following like step by step. It's funny. Yesterday I was driving home, this is like a real life analogy that happened to me yesterday. I was driving home from a friend's house. I went to go visit a friend. She lives an hour and a half away from me almost. And I kid you not, for an hour of the ride back home, the GPS took me on back roads. I did not hit a highway the entire ride home, which is crazy because on the way to her house, it's all big highways. And I was so confused because I'm like, this GPS has never taken me this route before. What is going on? It was dark at night. I love back roads, but at nighttime, I hate back roads because as a female, I feel unsafe being at dark, unlit back roads, nobody else really around, not many houses. I'm in the middle of nowhere, excuse my language. It's scary. I'm like, what if my car breaks down? My phone was at 30%. And on top of that, it got so foggy out of nowhere. When I tell you I could only see like a few meters in front of me that my lights would allow me to see. I was on this long, dark, scary road that was windy and had a bunch of turns. For majority of the ride home, only 4 minutes till I got home, I finally recognized where I was. And I was even like close to home. I was on a road that I drive regularly, but I still didn't recognize it because of how foggy it was and how I got there. Because the road that got me there was a road I've never taken, the road less traveled. I was like angry. I was literally angry. I was like, what is going on? Why is this happening? But such an analogy. And I remember thinking, I'm like, this is such an analogy for my life. This is the life I've been on, this dark,
windy road, trusting my internal guidance system, right? I was trusting the GPS. I was trusting that even though I had no clue where I was, it was eventually going to take me to where I wanted to go. And it did. And I was safe. And it made it that much more worth it when I got home. Anyways, I chose that path. And again, this is where free will comes in. We can choose to answer our higher calling, because I believe we all do, whatever that might look like for you, right? Higher doesn't necessarily mean better, and it does not mean above anybody else. And God can use all of us for something bigger than us. I believe our existence is bigger than us. Just by simply existing and living, it's bigger than us. So I want to say that as well. So there's definitely more clips that I want to show you. But before I do, there's a few things that I want to say here. There's so many of these videos talking about being chosen. What does that do? It creates an in-group, kind of like what I was mentioning before. It makes me think about when you're in high school and the PE teacher picks two captains, and the two captains have to then pick their team, right? It's like, okay, I pick you, I pick you, I pick you, I pick you. It's like, you kind of feel shitty if you're like the last one. You don't want to be the last one. You want to be picked. You want to be chosen, because there's something about being chosen that makes you feel special. It makes you feel valuable, right? So saying God has chosen you creates this energy of feeling special. It makes you feel superior. And I feel like that is ego, because again, we are all equal. And what does this end up doing? It separates you from others. It doesn't actually create true connection. It separates you from others. It creates us and them. And at the end of the day, we are all connected. We are all one. Jesus would never teach separateness. We are all special. We are all unique. We are all one. And this idea of being chosen creates more separateness. I think that's important to point out. And also, ego doesn't necessarily want truth. Ego craves safety, and ego loves to feel special. So I want to talk about why some people feel the need to be chosen, because again, I feel like this stems from a wounded part. Feeling chosen can soothe pain. It gives pain meaning. It gives your suffering meaning, which makes pain and suffering easier to deal with for many people, right? If you feel like, oh, my pain and my suffering is for something, it's not for no reason. It makes it easier to deal with. It makes it easier to cope. It gives the mind the ability to make sense of it, right? Like when your mind can make sense of it, like, oh, this makes sense now. It makes sense why my life has looked like this and nobody else that I know's life have looked like this. It makes sense why I've went through all this suffering, because I'm chosen, right? It makes sense. It gives suffering meaning. So therefore it brings that person comfort. It puts their mind at ease, because it's easy to be going through all this pain and compare yourself to other people. Why haven't they gone through what I've gone through? Why has my life been so hard, right? But when you're told you're chosen, it gives it meaning. It makes you feel better. It makes you feel special. It makes your suffering worth it. It also gives life meaning, and it turns confusion into identity. Again, it creates that safety. It gives life meaning, which creates safety for the ego. I also feel like people who are often misunderstood or unseen, it gives them the feeling of being understood and seen. And as humans, because we're human at the end of the day, we just want to be seen. We want to be understood, right? So when we felt rejected or like the black sheep, because this is another common theme we see, a lot of the chosen ones, right, claim to be the black sheep, which I'm going to get into a little bit more later. But when you feel like the outcast, you're just human at the end of the day. Of course you want to be seen and acknowledged and understood. It's so hard to be misunderstood. And that's coming from experience. Like, I get it. I too felt like the black sheep. I get it. I've been there. And I too have dealt with things in life where I have thought, why do I have to go through this? Nobody else in my family has gone through this. Why me? So I understand, I understand that, right? So when somebody says to you, this is why you are the black sheep, I see you, I understand you, come here, you are chosen. It gives you what you've been seeking for so long. You're finally seen. You're finally understood. Of course you want that. So again, I'm not saying these people are bad for wanting to feel chosen, but what I'm saying is the mechanism is seductive, right? It's seductive. You are chosen. Come here. You are chosen for something greater than you. You are special. You are rare. Right? And what is that seduction? That's temptation. That is the workings of the devil. That is the ego, my friends. That is the ego at play, because we are all one, right? Unity. We are all one. We are not separate from one another. None of us are better than anybody else. There's no hierarchy. We are all God's children equally, period. We are all here for different reasons. Yes, we all have different roles, but the idea of you are chosen, you are special, you are rare, that is seductive to the ego, absolutely. The need to be chosen at the end of the day comes from a wound. It comes from an unconscious part of you, a part of you that needs your love, needs your attention, needs your validation, needs your understanding. But because it's not getting it from you, it's seeking outward. It's seeking that validation outside of you. And when people feel they're chosen, I feel like it's because they're unaware of that shadow part of them, that part of them that's just needing to be understood by themselves, needing their own love and attention. It's that unawareness that causes this, because if you are aware of that part of you, you wouldn't feel the need to be chosen. You wouldn't feel the need to be chosen because you would know how to give that to yourself. And you would also understand that we are all one. We are all connected. Unity. There is no hierarchy here. And something else that I want to point out too, they talk about the chosen ones. You're the black sheep. You're the one that was rejected when you were younger, because that's something else that's talked about a lot. If you are a chosen one, let me just show you another video here.
You'll know that you're a chosen one if this video resonates with you. Chosen ones are usually rejected from a very young age, and in some cases, even before they are born. Chosen ones are also abused in some way, whether that's physically, emotionally, sexually, even spiritually. If you're a chosen one, you have probably noticed that you have been rejected by society, but it's all strategic and purposeful because you were designed for something much, much bigger. So you had to be set apart, and God pulled you from the commoners, the isolation.
God pulled you from the commoners. Again, it's giving hierarchy. God chose you from the commoners, right? And also, if you're a chosen one, you were rejected, you were abused. All of these people that resonate with being the black sheep, that resonate with being abused or rejected, they're going to hear that and they're going to say, oh shit, that's me. Somebody sees me. Somebody understands me. A lot of what I hear in these videos, the themes, the chosen ones are the black sheep. They've been abused. They have been rejected. And personally, I definitely resonate with what she's saying. So I understand it from a perspective of people, resonating with that and wanting to find meaning in that, right? Because that's the thing. A lot of people want to find meaning in why did my life look like this in comparison to my friend or in comparison to whoever. What I want to bring to this though, for example, I would not be who I am today if I didn't go through everything that I went through. I wouldn't be who I am today. With all of my life experience, I wouldn't be who I am today. And do you know what was necessary for me to be who I am today? All of those experiences were necessary. Therefore, everybody in my story was necessary. They helped me wake up. They helped me get here. They helped me become who I am today. Does that make sense? So why would I be chosen and not them? Because they have their own story and they have their own trials and tribulations, whatever that might look like for them. But also, let's say the dynamic of the abuser and the abused, it's like without my abuser, I wouldn't be who I am today. Not making it okay, right? It doesn't make the past experiences okay, but I would not have gained the wisdom that I have if I hadn't had that experience. And I believe that, again, we do have free will here. At the same time, we choose the different roles that we play here on earth. And every character in the story has an integral role. You might feel like the main character, but that's because you're you, right? Everyone feels like the main character in their story, as everybody should feel like the main character in their story. However, without the other characters, you wouldn't be who you are today. It's all necessary in making you who you are. So why would that make you more chosen than anybody else? You know what I mean? It's like for the black sheeps, for example, you wouldn't be who you are today if you didn't have that experience of being the black sheep. But the only way to have the experience of being the black sheep is if everybody else played their roles in making you the black sheep. Does that make sense? Just because that was your role in your experience, that doesn't make you more special than anybody else, because again, everybody is experiencing whatever they're meant to experience. Everybody is the main character in their own story, and everybody else's story plays a part in your story. Sometimes we go through hard things so that we learn and grow and experience to gain that knowledge, but we wouldn't gain that wisdom or knowledge unless we had experienced it. So the other players, the other people involved in that experiences are also key players in that experience, because you wouldn't be where you are without that. So why does that make you special over them? Because they were a part in making you you. You get what I'm saying? You get where I'm going with this? And it also brings me back to what I was talking about at the beginning. Like, I believe that we incarnate many different times. You know, in this lifetime, maybe I resonate with being the black sheep, but maybe in my past life, like maybe I wasn't, or in another lifetime, I wasn't the black sheep. So I want to show you, I'm just looking for the clip here. There's people that talk about the Bible verse.
So we all know the scripture, many are called, but few are chosen. But I don't think many people really understand what that scripture means and what comes with it. When you are chosen by God, you don't really get a say.
You know, I'm going to stop it right there. First and foremost, I personally don't think she really understands what it means. And you absolutely do get a say. We have free will here, period. We have free will here. Whether we realize it or not, we have free will. We absolutely do have a say. Now, this is not me saying you have a say in exactly what your life looks like, because none of us have a say in exactly what our life looks like. Our ego doesn't, like our ego or our mind doesn't have a say for what our life looks like, right? We can try to figure out what our life is going to be or what it's going to look like, but that's not up to us. We have a plan that's already set out for us, right? Whether you want to call it God's plan, whether you want to call it the plan of your heart, your soul, whatever you want to call it, right? We all have a plan that's set out for us. And the mind, the ego, wants safety, wants to know what's next. The ego thinks it knows best. Often life does not unfold the way we think it's going to unfold, right? And I believe we don't necessarily, our mind, our ego does not have a say in that. Our soul is always on board with it, even if our mind doesn't understand that our soul is on board with it. Our soul is always on board with God's plan, even if there's like a disconnect and your mind doesn't realize your soul is on board, you know, because she said you don't really have a say. You do have a say. You had a say before you came down here. You were a big part in creating this plan for yourself. Many are called, few are chosen. Again, I don't take this literally. What I believe this means is many are called, but few choose. Many are called, but few will choose. It is not as though you are chosen by God. Like, oh, I pick you, I pick you, I pick you. As I was saying before, many of us are called. Many of us have a quote unquote higher calling, but few actually choose to follow that path, because it is the road less traveled. Going back to the analogy that I experienced yesterday on that windy road, right? That dark, foggy road. It's a scarier path. It's foggy. You don't know where you're going. It's a path that requires you to surrender. It's a path that requires you to drop your armor, to surrender your ego, and to listen and to continue following forward, even if you don't know where it's going to take you. And it's not easy. It's not easy. It's hard. And yes, there'll be trials and tribulations. It would be a lot easier to take the easy path, right? The path that provides safety for the mind and the ego. So I don't necessarily believe, few are chosen. I believe few choose. Few choose to walk the road less traveled, but that's a choice that you make from within you, because we have free will here, right? We have free will here. For you to say you don't have a say makes no sense. It goes against the Bible, because we have free will. And if you are a follower of God, Jesus, or religious at all, that's not news to you, right? We do have free will here. We absolutely do have a say, period. And yeah, this Bible verse, many take it so literally. Many are called, few are chosen. Yeah, we are all called. We are all children of God, but we have free will here. Few choose to answer the call, because it's a lot easier to cater to the ego, to tend to the ego. It's a lot easier to stay in your comfort zone. It's a lot harder to surrender the ego. It's a lot harder to walk the path less traveled. But that's a choice, and it is your choice. We all have the opportunity to choose, every single one of us.
And a lot of people who are chosen and don't know that they're chosen, they have always felt like an oddball. They have never fit in anywhere. They have always felt different.
So again, it's like this same rhetoric, right? You're an oddball. You didn't fit in. And, this leads me to my next question. Going back to what I was saying before, it's like, in order for you to get to where you are, you had to experience being left out. You had to experience all of that, but you wouldn't have had those experiences if it wasn't for everybody else involved. So sure, maybe you quote unquote woke up before other people. Maybe you saw things other people don't see. But the only reason why you were able to is because other people allowed you to. Other people gave you that experience. It's almost like they sacrificed their own awakening for you to awaken before them. Oh, and that makes me so emotional. I have full body chills. That makes me so emotional. It's like they sacrificed their own awakening for you to awaken, because in the world we live in, oh my God, I did not expect to get so emotional. In the world we live in, we live in a heavy, dark world where a lot of us are asleep, and it's not our fault. It's the result of the world we live in. A lot of us are asleep, and in order to wake up, you almost do need to be put through a pressure cooker. And I understand because I've lived it. And there's layers to awakenings, okay? There's layers to awakenings. But in order for me to be put through a pressure cooker, I needed all of those experiences in my life. And I needed all of the other characters in order for me to have those experiences. So they chose to play that role so that I could go be put in a pressure cooker to wake up. Oh my God. That's hitting me. Oh my God. Does that make sense? Because I understand a lot of what they're saying, but I don't agree with the idea of being chosen, because we're all chosen and we all chose the different roles. You know, I wouldn't be where I am without all of those experiences, and it feels like those other people, they chose to play those characters in my story so that I could awaken. Essentially, it's sacrificing their own awakening for me to awaken, to create those experiences for me to go through the pressure cooker to see clearly. That doesn't make me better than them. It makes me so grateful for them. It's like it's like they chose to stay stuck longer so that I can see and become unstuck. Does that make sense? Oh, that makes me so emotional. Oh my God. This idea of I am chosen, I'm special is really maddening.
And something that I feel is important to speak to. In the last clip, I was talking about awakening and how these people that have provided me with these experiences essentially have sacrificed their own awakening so that I can awaken. And when I say awakening, it's what you and I know to be an awakening. But maybe for these people, that was never their goal in this lifetime. Maybe they were simply not meant to awaken, because maybe they were meant to experience life in the quote unquote matrix, right? Whatever it is you want to call it. And maybe that was exactly what their soul wanted to experience. But also in that, they were serving as a key role in my own awakening. And maybe in other lifetimes, I came down here and also chose not to quote unquote awaken, because maybe my role was also to put somebody else through a pressure cooker. Does that make sense? So I feel like to have this view, because I feel like a lot of people who claim to be chosen have this energy of feeling superior, again, because it creates hierarchy. I think it's so unfair to perceive oneself as superior simply because in your mind you have awoken and other people have not awoken. What if other people are simply not meant to awaken in this lifetime for whatever reason? You know what I mean? And who's to say that in other lifetimes you and I haven't experienced an awakening? And what does awakening really mean? You know, that's something you can argue as well, because I feel like there's many different types of awakenings that we can have. Just because you perceive something to be an awakening, somebody else might perceive an awakening to mean something different, you know, so that's a whole other rabbit hole that we can dive into. And there's layers to awakening. It's not like you just awaken and you're enlightened and, you know, There's layers to it, and there's always something more to awaken to. And we all are here for different reasons. I believe that some of the souls that actually love us the most have chosen to bring that polarity for you. Some of the souls that love you the most choose to bring the polarity for you to experience what you need to experience to awaken to the wisdom within you. It doesn't mean they're less special or any less chosen than you. I feel like that mentality is so backward. So I just wanted to speak to that as well.
We're all equally chosen, equally special, equally unique. Yes, some people feel like the black sheep and, you know, go down the road less traveled and have different experiences that might not make sense to them. And it's so valid to be frustrated and to be frustrated at, why does my life look like this? But when you're able to zoom out and see it from a higher perspective, I believe that mass awakenings are happening and more of us are starting to awaken. But often, and this was my case, maybe not for everyone, but for me, this was the case. In order to awaken, I had to go through everything I went through. I had to. I needed those experiences. Otherwise, I wouldn't be here right now. I wouldn't see things the way that I do. And it was like a team effort to get me here. It was a team effort to get me here. And I'm not saying I'm here and I have nowhere else to to go. I know I still have a long way to go. There's a lot more to awaken up to. I want to make that very clear. Okay, but I'm speaking to this example of being the black sheep and all of these things, right? It was a team effort to get me here. That does not make me more special, more rare, more unique, more chosen. No, we are all team players. We are all team players playing the different roles that we need to play to get to where we need to go. And I believe that there is mass awakenings happening, and there are people being put in these pressure cookers so that they do see things differently, so that they can start talking about it to help awakening to help the collective, right? But it's not like it's like you need me because I have all of this knowledge. It's thank you for granting me the experiences to see clearly. I owe it to you. Like I owe it to you is oh, this makes me so emotional. It's like it is now my duty to share. Okay, so I'm just laughing because I got so emotional. I feel like as I was speaking, these realizations hit me even at a deeper level, which hence the emotion. Anyways, but one thing that I wanted to add, what I'm trying to speak to here is when you go through a pressure cooker and you awaken to the wisdom within you and you start to see the world differently and your perception shifts and you start to see the shadow in the world, you start to see what's wrong with the world, it then becomes your responsibility to make change in the world, period, because we are all one, we are all connected, and it then becomes your responsibility to make change, whatever that might look like for you, right? Whatever that might look like for you, and that will look different for every single person. However, when you do start to see the world differently and your perspective shifts, you will feel this inner call, whatever that might look like for you, that will take different form for different people, but you will feel this inner pull, this inner call to make change. I mean, we see the shit going on in the world, you guys. Like, we see the chaos going on in the world. There is a lot wrong with the world. And in order for this to change, it is up to us to take a stand, to take action. Again, and that there's so much wrong with the world. I'm not saying you have to get into every single issue because that would simply be impossible. However, when you do start to see the world differently, you then show up differently. It's almost like you have to show up differently, not because you're being forced, but because you are different. You have been shaped and changed forever. Therefore, the way you go about the world is forever changed. So it then becomes your responsibility to take action and to make change, to help the collective, not in a way of, oh, you need me because I'm the chosen one and God has a plan for me that's bigger than me. No, it comes from a place of realizing, oh my God, we are all connected. We are all one. It comes from a place of seeing truth and knowing that you play a part in the change, not that it is up to you and other people are relying on you. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's a difference there, and we all play a part in it, whether you realize it or not. Even people who bring the polarity, because those, again, who bring the polarity that allow you to see things differently, they're too playing a part. It might be a different role than you, but it doesn't make one role better than the other. We're all in this together. We're all in this together. And when you do truly start to awaken, or your perspectives shift and you start seeing the world more clearly, it then becomes your responsibility to show up differently so that the world can actually change, so that real change can actually happen. Oh my God, in order for me to get here, all of this needed to happen and you played a part in that. The least I could do is now share. And do you get what I'm trying to say? I think you get what I'm trying to say. Oh, I didn't think that would, oh, wow, sorry. That just really hit hard. Anyways, my point is God doesn't pick favorites. God doesn't pick favorites, period. God chooses everyone. We're all chosen. We are all his children, and we're all here together on a team, even if it doesn't seem that way. Even if it doesn't seem that way. You might say that person's not on my team. All of their views are completely different than mine. I'm telling you right now, whether your mind or ego realizes it or not, we are all united. We are all on a team. Our souls are all on the same team, period. Our souls are united. We are all on the same team. It's ego that gets in the way. It's ego that causes divisiveness. And when we're able to start seeing past that a lot is going to start changing in this world. But it's hard, right? Because a lot of us hold strong views and perspectives, and it's difficult when other people hold such opposing views and perspectives. But that polarity is necessary here, right? We need that polarity. We need the opposing views to create like the pressure cooker. You know what I mean? We're all on the same team. We are all on the same team, whether we realize it or not. So going back to the Bible verse, I hear it as we are all called, but few actually choose that path, because choosing that path often requires choosing truth over comfort, choosing surrender over control, which is hard, and choosing the heart even when it costs you. Even when it costs your ego. And it's not easy. And I do feel like some people might feel like they're forced into that path. And maybe that's where that woman was coming from. It's like you don't really have a say. I do understand that to an extent because I felt with my path too, I was almost like forced into it. With that said, I actively chose it as I continued to walk that path. It's like once you start seeing things, you can't see things another way. You can't go backwards. But I do believe that we also chose it before we came down here. Like God would never force you into something. I don't believe we're chosen because we're special. We're chosen because we decide. We decide to walk the path. We decide to surrender. We decide to tune in inwardly and listen inwardly. And one more thing I want to add here. We all are playing a different role. Maybe your role is the black sheep, to awaken, to see things differently, then to make change because you see things differently. Maybe another person's role is to be the bully or to stay quote unquote asleep the whole time, right? And you might argue it's harder though to be the black sheep. It's harder to go through the pressure cooker and to go through an awakening because those who have been through it know that it is like walking through fire, right? And surrendering the ego. And you can argue that that is the harder role. However, to play devil's advocate here, it might be harder for your ego. Yes, it might be harder for your ego. However, it is liberating to the soul. It is liberation for the soul. Those who choose to stay asleep, because I do believe it's a choice, and maybe a choice that they pre-planned before coming down here, those who choose to stay asleep, sure, it might look easier while you're living this life, right? It might look easier on the outside because it's easier for the ego, but guaranteed their soul, it's a lot harder on their soul. So what is truly easier? Is it easier to play the role of the black sheep and go through a quote unquote awakening to be chosen, whatever it is you want to call it? Or is it harder to choose to stay asleep so that, do you get what I'm saying here? I feel like people sometimes who go through, even healers or, people who claim to be chosen healers, whatever label you want to put on it, often the rhetoric is, oh, it's so hard. This path is so hard. And I get it because I've been there and it can be very hard and it is challenging. I'm not trying to take away from the human aspect of it, right? Like we're having a human experience. You're allowed all of your human emotions. I'm not telling you to bypass the human part of it, but it's also remembering, yeah, it might be harder for your ego, but it is liberation for your soul. And that is true medicine. That also gives you the opportunity to truly live. And I think that's super important to remember. Personally, I wouldn't want to go backwards. If I were to do it all again, I would choose to do it all again, even though it was that hard, because it liberated my soul. And that is a gift. That is a gift. Oh, and this is making me emotional again. That is a gift. If you awoken, if you chose to awaken, and I'm using quotes, if you chose to go through an awakening and you were the black sheep, or you resonate with being a healer and your life was hard and you were, abused, rejected, etc., feel the human emotions. Don't bypass the human part, but remember the gift. Remember the gift that you have, because as a result of all of these things, you are liberating your soul, which allows you to truly live life. To truly live life. That is a gift. That is a true gift. And not everybody in this lifetime has that gift because their soul maybe chose differently. Maybe they chose to stay, quote unquote, asleep. And again, it's interesting because free will, destiny, well, do you choose before you come down, Brittany, or do you choose while you're down here? I believe it's a mix of both. I do believe it's a mix of both. I believe we choose before we come down here, but we also do have free will, right? So if your soul chose to awaken, I do believe that you still have the choice. Like for me, I could choose if I want to choose. I have free will. I could choose to step away from the path I'm on, I could go back to my job as a high school teacher and go back to that stability, go back to comfort. I can go back to the way my life was before if I truly wanted to. I mean, I don't want to. I don't choose that. I continue to choose to follow the path less traveled, right? It is a forever choice. I do believe we do have free will right here, right now. I think it's like a mix of free will intertwined with destiny, but I do think we do choose before coming down here as well. And I do think people do choose to stay, quote unquote, asleep for their entire life for whatever reason. And some of their reasons might be to help you awaken, right? So it's not that one role is better than the other. All roles are equally as important. And the idea of being chosen is simply just so egoic. It's so egoic. Wake up. It's maddening, you know, and I hold compassion with that because I get it. At one point in my journey, I probably would have totally believed that too. But anyways, I'm going to talk about the ego versus a true awakening. And I believe awakenings happen in layers. Ego says, I'm chosen, I'm different, I'm special, I'm unique. A true awakening says, I am not separate from anybody. We are all equal. Ego builds identity, and a true awakening will dissolve identity. Ego will elevate you, right? Creation of that hierarchy. It'll make you feel superior, whereas a true awakening will humble you. And, you know, when I first started really awakening, I do understand how the ego gets in the way, because there was a period of time for me where I too was feeling special and superior. I never said I was chosen because I was not introduced to this idea. Had I been introduced to that idea at the time, I probably would have fell for it, just where I was at on my journey at that point. However, going back to what I was saying, when there was a part of my journey where I genuinely was like feeling superior. Like I felt like I had all of this knowledge that other people didn't have. And I clocked it. And I remember thinking to myself, like, okay, Brittany, logically, I know that it's not good, because logically, I know that we're all equal. And I knew that logically, like I held that belief that we're all equal. And I always held that belief, but how I felt did not match that belief. And that's important. And I sat with that. And I remember thinking like, okay, how I feel does not match this belief that like I hold dear. So I asked for help. I prayed and I said, oh, it's making me emotional. And it's nothing to be ashamed of, you know, it's nothing to be ashamed of if you start feeling superior or any of that. And this is another thing, you know, I feel like it's important to talk about this stuff openly, because a lot of people feel shameful to admit that, when really often that's a part of the path and the journey. What's most important is not to shame yourself for these things, but to bring awareness to it so that you can understand it. And I was aware, so I prayed and I asked for help. I said, okay, I'm starting to feel superior. I know that is not good. I don't want to feel this way. But this is how I feel. Help me. Help me. And I asked for help. And let me tell you, I was humbled really fucking quick. Like I was humbled really quick. But this is another thing, is being aware of this ego within you in whatever way it might look. And that's just a personal example, but it's becoming aware, not shaming yourself for it, because the ego is a necessary part of who you are too. It's nothing to be ashamed of. It's nothing to cast aside. It is a part of you that makes you who you are. Therefore, it is important to get to know and understand, so that you recognize that part of you versus the other part of you. Does that make sense? But both are you. I want to make that clear as well. So it's nothing to shame, because I think that's like another thing. Like often in these spaces, people easily just want to push aside the ego or cast it aside or label it as bad. And the ego can be ugly when you're unaware of it, right? However, it's a beautiful thing at the end of the day, but it is important to understand. So yeah, I want to say that as well. A true awakening doesn't make you special. It makes you responsible, you know, and to walk the path less traveled is not easy. It requires humility. It requires responsibility, and it requires letting go of identity, which is not easy for the ego to do. I want to acknowledge like this path is challenging. It's hard to be the black sheep. It's hard to have gone through all of those experiences. This is not me saying it's easy, because I too resonate with that. I too am the black sheep. I too have dealt with things that I don't feel were necessarily fair, you know, X, Y, and Z. However, that doesn't make me special.
chosen, rare, right? We're all chosen. We're all special. So someone might appear chosen, right? They might appear chosen when really they've chosen devotion to self, devotion to God. And that requires you to let go of identity. So I'm going to show you another video here. I just love how this woman articulated everything. So I'm just going to let her speak because this was very beautifully said.
The people who appear chosen, and I'm talking about the people who just have a light about them, they've chosen God at some point in their life. They've chosen God at some point in their life. And a lot of people think that that means going to church or, you know.
And something that I want to say, because I agree with a lot of what she says here. She says they've chosen God. I do believe that. I also believe that we all have different language for God. I believe you can also say like you've chosen yourself because we all have God within us. We are all of God, right? We are God's children. Just like when your parents give birth to you, you carry their genes, right? You carry their genes within you, right? So you can think of it like we're God's children. We carry God within us. Not that we are God, but we are a strand of God, essentially. So when you choose yourself, you're choosing the divinity within you.
Trying to be a good person. No, it means internally they have chosen God. They trust God. They trust the Holy Spirit's guidance in their life. And even if they're not conscious to it, they still have chosen God. They've chosen love. They've chosen grace. They've chosen forgiveness. They've chosen authenticity. These are all choices. Whether we make them consciously or subconsciously, they're all choices. And that's why some people appear chosen than other people. We were all chosen. It's just that some people chose God and others did not choose God. I'm talking about the people who have internally accepted God and they're like, you know what? I'm just going to let God handle it. I'm going to let the Holy Spirit move in my life. When people have chosen in their heart, again, subconsciously or consciously, when they have chosen God, they have a light about them. It's in their essence. It is in their presence. You can feel it. You can meet certain people and just be like, oh my God, like they are just beautiful. They are beautiful people. And it's beyond physical. It is just their essence, their entire essence. A lot of people rely so much on the world. A lot of people rely so much on if this happens or if this happens, but they don't rely on God. That's why some people appear more chosen than other people.
My camera died, so I had to, anyways, I put my hair down, a little change up. Anyways, I totally agree with what she said. And, I do want to acknowledge that she's speaking through the language of Christianity, which there's nothing wrong with that. But I agree with everything that she's saying. You can alter the language slightly and you can say, instead of saying they've chosen God, you can say they've chosen themselves. They've chosen the path of their heart, the path that their soul is guiding them on, right? You can change the language, doesn't matter. Whether you want to say they've accepted the Holy Spirit and they've chosen God, like you get what I'm trying to say. I talk more about that in one of my other videos. I talk about this phenomena where people jump from New Age to Jesus, and I dive more into language in that video in particular. So if you're interested, check that video out. That's a deep dive, you guys. That video is almost 4 hours long. So I dive into a lot of different nuanced topics. Anyway, so I'm not going to dive into that again here in this video, but essentially, just really quickly, I believe that a lot of us use different language to describe the same thing, whether you are Christian or whether you are spiritual, like whatever it may be, right? I believe that as humans, we have different language and you don't need to speak any specific language to connect with God because God doesn't care what language you speak, right? He only cares about the connection. So she was speaking from the framework and language of Christianity. So I want to acknowledge that, but I totally agree. I totally agree. And I thought that was a beautiful video. So I wanted to add that in here. Okay. So there's another creator that I want to show you here. I'm not doing like a deep dive on her or anything like that, but I'm going to show you just a couple clips here of the way she starts a lot of her videos. Okay. So she has a lot of followers, 476K. Okay. She has a large platform and she does keep popping up on my feed. And I'm like, why does she keep popping up on my feed? And what I've noticed is this rhetoric that she uses that I just want to bring awareness to.
The dark side of being a chosen one. Chosen ones are lonely because they live unconventional lives. Good luck trying to get a 9 to 5. You also will be blocked in love until you get visible with your gifts. Chosen ones cannot do conventional dating. All are built for Flowdose and some deep soul contracts. Chosen ones become dangerous after isolation. When you no longer need your 3D to validate you, and you no longer need people around you to emotionally regulate, you literally bypass the matrix.
like biting my tongue. Because yeah, I could probably do a whole deep dive on this.
Chosen ones experience the most isolation because they vibrate higher. You also front-loaded all your karma, so you will vastly...
Okay, anyways, I'm going to leave that there. Those were just a few little clips, and I just noticed a lot of her videos start out with chosen one this, chosen one that. Even this clip that I have here.
If you've been blocked from a normal life, no matter how much you've made all the right decisions, it's because you're a chosen one. Chosen ones did not come here to live an ordinary life, which is why you probably feel like a lot of your life has been a battlefield, especially early on.
Anyways, I could probably critique all of these videos. That's not the goal of this video. You know, I'm just bringing awareness to this rhetoric, this chosen one identity that people have seemed to kind of attach onto. And, you know, I came across this creator, and to me, this feels really icky, you guys. It feels really icky to me. I remember seeing her videos kept popping on my feed, and what this feels to me, not that she's intentionally doing it, I feel like she believes she's a chosen one, and she probably feels compelled to talk about her story and her experience and to share what she's learned. You know, some of the stuff she says, I see where she's coming from with some of her videos, but I also see the hierarchy that has been created. I see the ego that's at play. I see the distorted energy, and what it's doing is it's fueling other people's egos. It's giving other people permission to fuel their ego, if that makes sense. I don't think she's doing this intentionally, but it really does make me feel uncomfortable, especially with someone with such a big platform. And editing Brittany here. Yes, I'm in my pajamas. But a few things that I wanted to add to these videos surrounding this creator in general, keeping in mind that this is not limited to her. There's a lot of other creators that use this rhetoric. She's simply the creator that simply happens to keep finding my feed. So I'm using her as an example. But an awakening is not exclusive, and framing it that way distorts the truth, right? Only the chosen ones this, chosen ones that, is simply not rooted in truth. Spiritual remembering is not elite. It's not rare. We all have the ability to remember. It's our birthright. It lives within each and every one of us. It's not reserved for a subset of people, right? It's not reserved just for the chosen ones. And when it's framed as exclusive, that can be quite damaging, especially when you do have a large platform. Large platforms can amplify distortion. With influence comes responsibility. When somebody with a large following repeatedly uses words like the chosen one this, chosen one's that, it can shape how thousands of people interpret themselves and others. You know, especially the world that we live in right now, a lot of people don't have that inner discernment. A lot of us don't yet have that inner discernment. It's not anybody's fault. It's the reality of the world that we live in, because we're taught to ignore that voice within us, right? But as a result of that, a lot of us don't yet have that inner discernment. Therefore, when people come across videos such as this, it's easy to relate to it, and then therefore identify with it. The language consistently used as well, because again, this isn't a lot of her videos. It subtly encourages spiritual superiority, again, hierarchy. It's not that she's necessarily outright saying the chosen ones are superior, right? At least I haven't come across a video of her saying that, but it does encourage that subtly, because by implying some are chosen, some are not chosen, again, it creates hierarchy, it creates exclusivity, and that can be quite damaging and toxic. Because even if it's unintentional, right, this language or this framing feeds the idea that some are awake and some are not, or I am awake and others are not. And while some people might be more self-aware than other people, as I mentioned earlier in this video, we're all here for different reasons. Some of us chose to come down here, and maybe their purpose in coming down here was to get so lost and to not wake up, because maybe that's what their soul wanted to experience for whatever reason. So it doesn't necessarily mean some people are less awake, maybe in this reality or maybe in this lifetime, but maybe that's simply the journey that their soul is on. It doesn't necessarily mean one is better than the other. It's just different roles. And again, to claim chosen, the language, you just need to be so careful with the language used. And then another issue that I have with this language too, it's like when people hear this and relate to a lot of these things, they're looking outwardly. Okay, am I a chosen one? Do I fall under these categories? As opposed to looking inward, if that makes sense, and looking at the growth that needs to happen from within as opposed to outside circumstances alone. Because the idea of being a chosen one can replace embodiment, right? Because what that does is it causes people to attach to identity, which can prevent embodiment. It can prevent growth and accountability. And another reason why I feel like this is so damaging, especially on a large platform, is it further fractures people. Like it further separates people as opposed to unifying people. It creates them versus us, the chosen ones versus those not chosen. Essentially, the language is dividing people, which in the world that we live in, we do not need any more divisiveness. If anything, we need the opposite of that. If anything, we need to remind people to have more compassion for one another and to remind people that we're all here, we're all just souls doing the best that we can, and we might all be on different stages of our own journeys, right? But that doesn't make one person better than the other person. So yeah, those were just a few things that I wanted to name. And it's just so important to be so mindful of creators online and who you come across, because again, the ego craves feeling special. The ego wants to feel seen and understood, right? And again, these are human things, so there's not necessarily anything inherently wrong with wanting to feel seen or special or anything like that. We are special. Each and every one of us are so special and uniquely special. But the problem is when you start to feel superior, or that when hierarchy is created. And I just see, particularly her platform, I see the damage that it can be perpetuating and how it really can inflate viewers' egos, which really we don't need any more of that. So yeah, I just wanted to point that out, and just how important it is to be really mindful when coming across different creators online. Just because somebody has a very, very large following, it doesn't necessarily mean that what they're teaching or what they're perpetuating is all positive or rooted in truth. And again, this is where discernment comes in, and none of us are perfect, right? None of us are perfect. We're all human at the end of the day. We're all going to make mistakes, but that again is why discernment is so key, especially in the world that we're living right now. I didn't dive into everyone who talks about being a chosen one, I'm sure, and there's some clips here that I was going to show you, and I'm like, this would be another 4-hour video if I were to go through every single clip and dissect every single clip. But I feel like I talked about, I hit on the main points. But anytime spirituality creates hierarchy, something's off. So if you're coming across creators like this, for example, and they have created spiritual hierarchy on their platform in some sort of a way, it's like making you feel special. Are you a chosen one? It's creating hierarchy. And to me, there's clearly something off here. There's something out of alignment here. Again, not that this is intentional, but something that's important to bring awareness to. When you have true awareness and you're going through an awakening, you don't require titles, if that makes sense. Like, you don't require to be called the chosen one. That need simply wouldn't be there. Having awareness is not a role, it's not a rank, it's not a label you earn. You don't become more aware by calling yourself a chosen one, by calling yourself enlightened. If anything, a true awakening would remove the need to use those labels. You wouldn't need to name it. What titles do is it stabilizes the ego, right? It gives the ego something to identify with. It gives the ego something to attach onto. It makes the ego feel special, chosen, inflated, etc., right? But a true awakening would actually have you move away from that as opposed to attach onto that. Or I should say, like, a grounded awakening. Like, if you're grounded, right? Because sure, maybe you're going through this awakening and you're starting to realize certain things, but if you're unaware of your wounds and you're ungrounded, it's a lot easier to attach onto these labels. If you ever come across any video online or anything at all, if any sort of teaching or video makes you feel above other people or makes you feel more rare, more special, or more unique in comparison to other people, instead of more connected to other people, pause and reevaluate the message. Because, you know, again, like this woman, for example, or even any of the other people talking about being a chosen one, there's definitely parts that they speak to that are very relatable to people that you can relate with, right? There might be part truths in some of their messages, but again, if it creates hierarchy or if it makes you feel special, pause and reflect, right? And this is where discernment comes in. I believe that we are really learning how to discern more and to trust ourselves, to trust our own intuition, which is why it's something that I mention in my videos and in my readings too. I say, trust yourself, use your discernment always over anything, over anything. There might be something that I say that you don't resonate with, and that's okay. You don't have to. We might not agree, you know, I might still hold my perspective and my view, and you might not agree with it or resonate with it. That's okay. You know what I'm saying? So I always want to speak to that as well. And this comes with any creator or anything that you come across online. It's learning that discernment and learning how to trust your own internal guidance system, because you can look at a video and you can say, do you know what? There was a lot of good points in that video and I resonate with parts of it, but there's also something off here. And that's where the discernment comes in, right? Like, it doesn't necessarily mean the messaging is all wrong or all bad. There might be pieces that you resonate with that are true to an extent, but there's other parts of it that, you know, tip into, this feels a little off, or this doesn't resonate, or you know what I mean? And again, that's where discernment comes in. We're human at the end of the day. We're human. We all have the ego. None of us are perfect. I know that I've posted stuff in the past where I'm like, yo, yikes. Whoa. You know what I'm saying? So again, like, you know, like, none of us are perfect. We're all on our own journey, and we're going to go through periods of being blinded by our own shadow at times. I know I have been. And again, it's nothing to be ashamed of, but I do think it is important to bring awareness to these topics. So that's why I wanted to talk about this today, being a chosen one. So if you feel, you know, like you've resonated with these videos of being a chosen one and you yourself consider yourself a chosen one, I just invite you to sit and reflect with everything that I've brought forward today. And it doesn't take away from your journey or your experience, and it doesn't mean that you're not meant for something more, right? But what it does mean is you're not better than anybody else, and there is no hierarchy, and you're not more rare or more special than anybody else, because we are all children of God equally. God doesn't have favorites. God doesn't choose favorites. We choose to follow the path of our soul and our heart. We have free will, and it's also knowing that we had a part in our path before coming down here, along with everybody else we incarnated with, and other people play a huge part in your path too, whether you're willing to see it or not, even if they boil your blood, even if you hate them, you know what I mean? Even if you've had interactions and you can't stand certain people, it's knowing that without that experience, you wouldn't be who you are today, and you needed the villain, right? You needed the contrast for you to become who you are. So it's having the ability to zoom out and seeing it from a higher perspective. Not saying your feelings aren't valid, right? But it's recognizing that it's bigger than what it might feel like right here, right now in this lived experience, right? You know, I believe that sometimes your greatest enemies are actually some of the souls that love you the most. Oh, and that makes me emotional as I feel into that too. Some of your greatest enemies, are the souls that love you the most. Why? Because they were willing to bring you that contrast here on earth for you to experience whatever it is you needed to experience to unlock wisdom from within yourself. Sometimes the souls that love you the most are willing to play the villain in your story so that you can step into your power. And that makes me so emotional. And I have full body chills. I'm so emotional, you guys. It's crazy. Anyway, so just remember that. Again, it doesn't make your feelings your feelings are still valid and all of that. But again, just another perspective. So anyways, I'm going to leave the message there, you guys. If you're interested, my February books are open. So if you're interested in a one-on-one reading with me, or simply a one-on-one session, like if you just wanted to chat or whatever it may be, you can book through my website. That'll be linked in the description below. Also, you guys, if you're interested in supporting my channel, a few ways to support me: like the video, share the video, hit that subscribe button. Also, another way to support me, I have a guided meditation bundle that I put together. I have been creating this over the last couple of months. It's finally finished. So if that's something that you're interested in, that will also be linked in the description below. I also have a handful of courses, you guys, and these are, I hate even using the word courses because I feel like anybody just has courses these days. I was actually very reluctant to putting courses together for a long time until it aligned, and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm super excited about this. The courses that I made are actually like little passion projects of mine, and I took my teacher experience to help structure the courses. And they're all aimed at helping you connect more with yourself. I have a full program that basically has all of the courses together, or you can purchase the courses individually, or you can bundle a couple of them up as well. I have a full course on the ego, learning that voice, becoming aware of that voice. Again, it's not something to be ashamed of. It's not something to shove away. It's an alive part of you that's very intelligent and has a lot to communicate with you. So it'll help you understand that part of you, or bring awareness to that part of you, because the ego shows up different for every single person. So I want to make that very clear. So, this will help you become aware of that voice within you, however it may show up for you. I also have a whole course on the intuition as well. And also the ego. I also have that bundled, the ego intuition bundle. You can get that bundled. I also have a course on spirit communication, like grounded and rooted spirit communication. And I also have a full course, or a course on grounded and rooted manifestation. And you can also bundle the manifestation and spirit communication one together. If I were to recommend starting with one, I would recommend starting with the ego course. I know that's probably the one that's like the least appealing, but it gives a solid foundation for the rest, because understanding your ego and learning how to hold that part of you and understand that part of you is so foundational for the rest of the work that I share as well. So yeah, those are just a few ways to support me and my channel if you're interested, of course. And yeah, follow me on my other socials. Shameless plug, I'm over on TikTok. I'm also over on the Instagram. I would love to have you join me over there as well. I'm sending you so much love. Let me know your thoughts of this video. I would love to hear your thoughts. I would love to hear your perspective. Again, any sort of interaction also does support me and my channel as well. So it's greatly appreciated. Thank you so much for being here, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.